Professionally, I haven't seen any artist do it, which is sad. I really would like to. I think the first time I heard marimba was when I was in solo and ensemble festival in eighth grade, and I had to do a little snare solo because it was either pick that or pick mallets, and I was really bad at mallets at the time. But I did hear marimba solo, and that was probably one of the pivoting points for me. Let's see. Percussion in general, I kind of just randomly joined band and was told that in order to be a percussionist, I had to audition. Therefore, it was the hardest spot. So I naturally wanted to do it. So I did that. If I didn't do that, it would have been clarinet, I think. But I did get in, and I did become a percussionist. And what ended up happening for mallets is I was the best one of the group that could read music, tonal notes in percussion. I was still very poor at it, but I was much better than the others, surprisingly. And that basically permanently landed me on the spot of every bell part in middle school. Aside from no, I'd say the hardest part about being a musician, aside from having to constantly practice, is realizing that having a field in the performing arts is becoming much, much harder to do nowadays. And if you want to pursue music as a career, it's becoming more and more difficult to pursue that dream and do it in a financially responsible way. Because, either you're doing gigs week to week and you're a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, or you become huge and you make a lot of money. Or you join an orchestra. But even then, the spots fill up. So I think playing a piece really well in front of people is probably the most rewarding for me. I think playing it right and playing it nice, I think that's the most rewarding. I do not look at the audience. Yeah, I zone. The only way I can perform in front of people is I pretend they're not there. If I pretend they're naked, then I laugh. So I can't do that. So I just kind of pretend they're not there. I basically zone out for however long the song is, and it works. It works pretty well, actually. I think I think it's extremely important because with the attention spans of late middle school, early to mid high school kids, and just the state of performing arts and music in general, it's becoming more. You have to do something to pull them in as fast as possible, because if you don't and you let them get bored at all. And I've had this happen, even with Saipan Southern. It's something that happens all over the place. If you don't give them an exciting piece, they aren't excited by it, so they won't want to put the effort into it. So then the piece kind of doesn't go anywhere. So, in terms of achieving that would require, I think, more. I mean, in order to playing high quality music, especially for percussion ensemble, is difficult because the higher quality songs require more instruments typically, and a marimba can cost as much as a car, $20,000, $12,000, and trying to convince a school to do that with already a dwindling budget, with no sort of want to push it into the performing arts department. It's the really, really nice songs, in my opinion, are out of reach for a lot of kids, and it's unfortunate, but it can't be changed without a fundamental rethinking of the performing arts fields in general and their importance in society. This actually feeds into your next question, like, really well. I basically sifted through pages upon pages upon pages of just percussion ensemble music. I'd find a piece that would fit our musical restrictions, so like one marimba, one vibe, and then I try to find a recording of it. If there was no recording of it, and it didn't look that interesting, I'd move on. And so eventually, after many, 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 many hours of just kind of sifting through really rhythmic-y, minimalistic percussion ensemble pieces, which are very typical. You come across a couple jewels that you can bring out. Personally, I've learned almost everything I know on the marimba from just watching initially tutorials on how to hold. And then once I got good enough, kind of doing my own interpretations of people's recordings, doing interpretations of the official recordings of whoever wrote whatever piece. I think internet's extremely important. I mean, I learned everything I know from it, and I gauge all my pieces and how to interpret them, what to do with them. I gauge them off of different recordings off of the internet. So without that, it would leave me to my own creativity, which would work, but it's nice to have that. It's really, really nice to have that initial guideline. Mark Ford likes to perform a lot of his pieces. And he does put them up, and they are very, very nice. In terms of anyone wanting to learn, I'd say I think his name was the Marimba Doctor or something. It was something like that. But he teaches you like there's like 30 episodes on everything from what is a marimba, how do you pronounce this thing, to how do you hold four sticks. I don't think they do six. Six is six is weird. But they do all different, all three types of four mallet grip. They teach you two mallet grip and how to roll and how to do everything. And I did utilize them for the beginning parts of learning four mallets. I mean, it's kind of separated within the United States and outside of the United States, mainly Asia, because Japan and China and Vietnam, they all seem to have picked up the marimba more so than the European countries and whatnot. But in America, they use primarily the Stevens grip, and everyone's in basically uniform agreement that the Stevens grip is what you should initially learn, what you should use, and what you should do. Um, but each grip does have its own caveats, and in Asia and Japan, like Kiko Abe and all them, they use just straight traditional grip, which is what I use. I mean, I learned off a traditional grip. When I asked my section leader about wanting to learn Stevens grip, he told me he told me I don't need that grip. That's unnecessary. You can do fine with traditional, and well, I kind of stuck with it. So the African marimba playing is a little more rhythmic-y, more so than tonal. So not as much African influence, but Central American influence very much. Yeah, I'd say it's the origin of the modern marimba, with the full piano style look. And those playing styles and techniques are very, they're very light, they're very happy, and they're very poppy, kind of salsa tango-y. And yeah, I use it whenever I can, when the song's permitting, genre permitting. I I would love to. I mean, I honestly maybe after I get into med school or realize that I'm not going to med school, I'll take a vacation. I'll take a congratulatory vacation or a condolence vacation down there and have a bit of fun. My technique basically changes from song to song because each song requires its own little pizzazz and finesse, and some songs are written for certain grips which utilize that grip much better than other songs. So if you try to play that song with a different grip, it becomes much more difficult. My Lady White comes to mind. That was not fun to play with traditional grip at all. That was horrible, actually. If it's gonna have a lot of music, if there's gonna be a lot of intonation and a lot of notes going on, and it's gotta sound poppy and sharp, I'll use harder mallets to bring out the attack. But if you're looking for more of a solemn sound, which the murmur can also do, it's capable of doing very many different genres and feelings. You can use softer mallets to really bring out the resonance of the instrument more so than the attack, to give a really nice, warm, flowy kind of sensation rather than a cat 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 ta 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 kind of thing. In my opinion, yes. If I'm not using the right mallet, then I don't. can't 100% say that I'm stylistically playing it to how I like, or even how the composer would like. Because if you're using really, really tough, clanky mallets on a really soft piece, it doesn't sound right. It's not nearly as warm. The well, from my experience, in order to get any sort of interpretation into the ensemble, you need to have them loosen up first. You need to have them, properly enjoying themselves. And then once they're not constantly worrying about hitting the right note or doing whatever, you can start to tell them to, play it more kind of wavy, play it, use the motor on this part, make this a little groovier, bop your head a little more, there really haven't been a lot of things with ad-libbing that I've had to do, but in terms of just straight interpretation, uh, through listening through the best recording, through as many recordings as I can of the song, and then looking through the actual score itself and going, what do I think should be put in? I put it in, try it out. If it doesn't work, you move back. Oh yeah, very much. Especially the really catchy percussion ensemble songs. It's the catchier the song is, the easier it is to kind of implant sort of a mental picture, and then with that mental picture, they'll kind of direct themselves. Um, and honestly, that worked really well with Visional Train. The last half of it, I did tell them to think about it kind of a train going through like a flowery kind of hilly meadow kind of thing, kind of almost like an end scene to like some sort of like popular happy anime kind of thing, because it does sound very much like that, and that did a lot for that part. um, they loosened up, everything got a lot brighter, everything got a lot happier, and it started to feel kind of like the end scene of a little anime show or something. There's the general feel. Depending on the section of the song, there's the general feeling that the composer is trying to give, and then upon that, I guess I'll try and implant, I guess, a memory of my own or something that would make me feel in a relative way the same way that the piece is trying to make you feel, and then kind of merge the two from there. It hasn't failed me yet, really. This marimba, well, the reason I have that marimba right there is because it cost me $4,000, and the next cheapest one cost me 8, and the next cheapest one cost me 12 or 10. So this was by far the most economical option of a 5 octave. 5 octaves. You can't even get 4 octaves for that much normally. But that does not come without its own caveats. It was a Chinese-produced marimba. Love my Chinese manufacturing. It's rosewood. So it's not Honduras rosewood, the endangered prized wood that's used for the actual $20,000 marimbas, but it's some sort of Malaysian rosewood, which is rosewood, by definition, but not the rosewood that has the same tonal qualities. Um, it sounds pretty nice. The upper octave isn't. It's the upper octave is meets expectations, maybe slightly underwhelming. I do like the lower octave though. It's really nice, resonant, and actually still fairly warm. The caveat is $20,000 keys are tuned by hand to the fundamental, the first overtone, the second overtone, and sometimes even the third overtone. So there's there's many, many hours of tuning that go into these things that make it cost $20,000. There's a reason they cost that much. That one is tuned to the fundamental and maybe the first overtone, maybe. So that provides, 2-note chords are fine. Certain 3-note chords will get weird, and then 4-note chords, the more you spread them out, the kind of stranger they start to sound. Especially notes I don't know, F3 and F4 are really oddly off, and I can't tell if it's actually flat. It doesn't sound flat tonally. It sounds flat like literally. It sounds almost dudded. It's weird. But other than that, you still can't buy a frame with the resonators for that thing cost 5,000 if you were to get them custom made. So I bought this with the eventual. Uh, I'm gonna say they're aluminum. I think they're aluminum. Um, they're light. I mean, they're light and they're metal. So that's aluminum's the only metal that I can think of that's that light that would be that economical. Um, they're lower. The lower octave, when tuned properly with the resonators, because I actually had not experienced having to tune resonators over those resonators. That was a new experience for me, having to learn how to do that. But once I did get that going, and I did get the resonant frequencies matched up to the bar and the thing, and it actually started resonating, it was really, really nice. Their lowest octave is really, really nice. Their middle and upper octaves, they make do. Yeah, I mean, I don't other than the F sound kind of duddy and flat, and certain select chords, like really, really weird, obscure chords, will cause them to be, they just won't match up sometimes. But other than that, I mean, other than the really, really specific guys getting the resonators that are all adjustable, like only the last five are adjustable over there. They're ones that they all adjust. I mean, other than that, and people just kind of getting their own rosewood and building their own marimbas, which is much out of the scope of what I'm capable of doing. There really isn't too much modification. I mean, unless they're skilled at, unless they know how to tune their own marimba, then they can take a very, very delicate knife and shave off little pieces of wood to fix that. But yeah, it's on the underside down. Oh, I can't do it. Yeah, down there. So I think those are machined. Those keys specifically. I think they might be machined. Which is for the initial tuning of, and the what I assume is not the best quality control of a Chinese factory. It came out quite well, really well actually. I'm pretty good at the slide whistle. I can say that. Um, I no, I don't have the slide whistle. The slide whistle is in Saipan, but I do have the samba whistle in my car. It's my ornament necklace thingy there. People always think it's a cross and that I'm religious. But then I blow this really cool like Brazilian tune and yeah, they're saying I'm a heathen, but I like to party and like Brazilian music, which I'm not. I guess that works. um, Instruments. I dabbled with a little bit of low brass a couple years ago. I started off on the tuba, but I ended up switching to euphonium. I don't remember why, but I ended up switching to euphonium, and that was actually pretty fun. I did actually enjoy playing that. I would like to play bass trombone though. That's something. In terms of composing, I haven't done a lot of like original compositions. I'm actually working on that now with my roommate's brother. He wants to do movie and video game scores for orchestra and stuff, and he has perfect pitch and is excellent at music, but he doesn't know music. He's like Stephen Hawking without knowing physics. I don't know how he does it. He's extremely talented, but I know a lot of orchestral structure, so I'm actually working with him in structuring his pieces so that they actually sound orchestrally and are not just kind of notes on a page. So I've got that going. but before that, it's mainly just been a lot of transcribing. I've done a lot of transcribing, and I've done I did that one montage, not montage, Ma medley. That's the word. Yeah, medley. I did the one medley for Saipan Southern High School, which was probably 30 days of like 2 hours of sleep. But that turned out really well. I had to come up with my own transitions, so that was a fun project. That's what got me into wanting to continue composing. I just didn't really have the need or the means or the time or the motivation until my roommate's brother expressed his interest in doing it. So improvising. I mean, like composing a really powerful piece with just a lot of raw emotion, and that's really nice. But on the flip side, improvising up a really sweet jazz riff is also honestly equally as good, and honestly I think would require more skill and more innate skill than with composing, because with composing you can, oh, that doesn't sound good, scratch it, that doesn't sound good, scratch it. With jazz it's da 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 da, and like the first one, which is the one that I use, is traditional grip, which is essentially the way you'd normally hold a stick and the way you normally play it by moving your wrist, same as a normal drumstick. What now? Yeah, exactly. Literally like holding a drumstick, but a little bit smaller. Placement is about a third up. For dual grip, you place the outer mallet on the outside, and they cross basically at the end, and you grab them so that your pinky touches your palm. Your ring finger in small intervals touches your palm, as does your middle finger, but in large intervals, as it spreads out, the pinky kind of becomes the only holding factor, and the other fingers kind of just prop the inner mallet, and just provide some sort of inner pressure. Because normally with the inner mallet, you're doing more single-handed or fast note things anyways, so you need more stability and control there. This is the traditional grip. This has been hundreds of years old. Yeah, it's been used since 15, 16, 17, 1800s. Very easy. Its caveats are its range. So its range is about this on a low octave. It's absolutely this on the lowest octave. I cannot spread the mallet out any farther than that. Now, but the advantage of this grip is you have you have a lot of control, because you have pressure from your hands pushing downwards, you have the thumb pressing down, you have your fingers, these wrapped fingers pressing up, and you basically have the stick's not moving. You're moving the stick where you want it to go. Stevens grip, which is the fancy new grip, relatively. I think it's about remember the history. I don't know. It's closer to 100 years old. Whatever marimba professors are actually watching this will know the answers and not be happy with close to 100 years old. But close to 100 years old. And it operates by not crossing the sticks, by holding them at the very end. So you have your ring fingers holding the stick, and then your middle finger kind of presses the very bottom into your palm, and your final and ring fingers kind of form this little complex right here. So you have your middle finger holding the inner stick, you have the two fingers holding the outer stick, and then you have your thumb and your index finger for moving. Now, the thing about this grip is you can go much farther. But yeah, so my range with traditional grip was that, and I can go. You can get up to completely 180 it and be able to come back. The really good marimba players can do that. But with that, you lose this sense of extreme control that traditional grip has, and as you play, you're kind of letting the sticks kind of just wiggling. It's wiggling around, so it looks a lot smoother when you play with Steven's grip. But it relies more on controlling where the stick's going. They're going where you want it. You just kind of have to direct it where you want to. You're not making it go where it's going. So it's like it's all. But the other advantage is you can one-handed roll really nice and really easily. The final grip, which is used in vibraphones by Gary Burton, that grip, I don't know when that came out. I want to say close to 100 years ago, but I know that's not true at all. It's probably the 70s. I might say the 70s or the 60s. Burton's grip is like traditional grip, but flipped, so the outside stick is under the inside stick. And this is because with vibraphone, you're doing much less full chords. With marimba, you're doing a lot of chords with some inner mallet stuff, so it's a lot more balanced. But with vibes, with jazz and everything, you're not doing very many chords. You're doing a lot of inner, a lot of two mallet things, and then sometimes you'll have a chord, or when you're not soloing, you'll do some chords. So they're not as important, but having very fast, in case you wanted to do multiple notes, being able to very quickly move them with Burton's grip is basically it's a movement of your thumb and your fingers. There it is, like that. So you would let it out, and it basically provides you with as much control as it. I'd say it provides you with more control than the traditional grip, because the traditional grip is more balanced. So if you're trying to play that, it's a lot easier on traditional grip than, in my opinion, Burton grip, where you're kind of almost straining yourself to get these really large intervals. But if you're gonna do like something really fast, Burton's grip is gonna be a lot better, because you're gonna have way more control of the inner mallet and whatever run you're doing, rather than traditional. So yeah, those are the three grips.